Shannon. Welcome to Human to Human.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
so
being
nice to be
here. I'm so glad. So you're a dating coach.
I am.
But before we get into all things dating, can
Yes.
you tell us an embarrassing TMI poo story? We do this on Human to Human to really normalize. We're all human beings. We all go through hard things. We're all imperfect. We're messy. It's weird. And so why not have a laugh about it?
Oh my gosh. I know you totally got me. You totally prepared me for this. And I feel like there must be an embarrassing poo story that I have, but nothing was coming to mind. So I did think of one that I heard through a friend. So I don't know if that counts.
Love it. Yes, 100%. We can always expose our friends.
Yes. Okay. So one of my girlfriends was telling me that she had somebody over in her apartment, and in Toronto, apartments can be pretty tight spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So from her bed, she can basically, see her bathroom door and hear everything that's going on in there. So she had someone over one time, and he was having some digestive issues or something, but he urgently needed to use the washroom. And it was just you could kind of hear the panic of in the bathroom, what am I going to do? This is going to be explosive. What am I going to do?
Oh,
Anyways, the tap just goes on and stays on for
yeah.
for a while. And oh my gosh, this poor person was in the bathroom just with the tap on. So to mute out the sound of them, having an episode.
Oh, that's honestly a good plan of how to deal with it, because I have to be honest, I'm a shy peer. I totally get pee shy, and sometimes I'm like, okay, you can deep breaths, 1, 2, 3, start. One.
I am like that too. I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, okay, put the tap on. Luckily my bathroom is far from my bedroom and my studio, so I'm like, if you gotta pee, girl, I can't hear you.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is so funny. I've definitely been a shy peer, and I feel like the equivalent for the poo story is a bashful asshole. That term I've thrown around. See, that's something that would apply to me, because I definitely have had a bashful asshole in certain situations and just not gone when I needed to.
Yeah. And then that adds a whole host of problems when you get home. You're like, oh no, okay.
I know.
Do you live alone, or do you live with your boyfriend?
Currently I live by myself. Yeah,
okay.
With my cats.
Okay, love that. So
yes,
you really have all the privacy for your
I
bathroom
do have
time.
all the privacy to be alone with my farts as much as I want.
I love that.
It's pretty nice.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that story. I love bashful asshole. That is going to come up again. Hashtag. I know for myself, when I have dreams and I have big goals and I have something I know I want, I grip on so tight. And I feel that way with my dreams. I felt that way when I was single too. I was like, I want a boyfriend so badly, and I know that this is what I want. But then it's like, how do you let go? How do you release that and trust the process? Trust that the right person will come into your life.
That is such a great concept. The gripping versus touching lightly on what it is that you want. And I actually found the context of dating to be the easiest way for me to grasp this concept, because in just one dynamic, it's pretty simple. It's just two people, but then you can feel when the other person is either gripping or being avoidant, and vice versa. So you get a really strong sense of what that looks like in real life, not just as the concept in dating. And you can be like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to be that grippy person. I don't want to,
I've been that grippy person. I've had someone tell me I'm that grippy person. I'm like, shit, but I really liked you, but I've come on too strong.
Yeah. I think the gripping comes from believing that there's the one and only person that embodies everything that you want, and that you it has to be that person. But if we look at it more like that person is a representation of a type of person that's out there, then we can kind of calm down a little bit and be like, okay. If it's not going to be them, it's going to be someone like them, or someone like them that I get along with even better, or I'm even more attracted to. Yeah. And that starts to loosen or lower the pressure, loosen the grip. Yeah. And you can just kind of go about it in this more confident and laid back, easygoing way, where you become more attractive and magnetic. Yeah. And even though that sounds counterintuitive or counterproductive or illogical, kind of you think that you got to go after what you want. You got to make it really known. And it's there's this fine balance between speaking your mind and claiming what you want, and and articulating it and going after it when you see it. But then there's this other side of it that's almost like you try to force certain things that don't fit it to be it just because you want it so badly.
Yeah. And sometimes too, it's funny because it's similar with like if you want a friend or you want like a best friend, we're not gonna like go hang out with someone new and be like, are they my future bestie? And I have videos, I've Snapchats I've sent to my friends of me literally being like, is he my future husband? Oh my God, did I just meet my future husband? And it's like, girl, you're not gonna meet.
Was that after like the first date or
yes
okay.
Yes. And I'm like, that's not like, and it's funny because when I did meet my boyfriend, it's when I let go, and it's when I was like, we're just gonna just focus on being me, focus on enjoying myself. And when I like the first couple dates, I was like, he seems really great. Great, good, perfect. That's something to just note. He seems cool, he seems good, and we can proceed.
Yeah.
Instead of like it jumps 9 yards and suddenly I'm like wanting him to propose.
Yes, I know. It's really interesting. And I've done a lot of thinking about and research on why it is that some people, a lot of women like to accelerate the process of putting a label on it or becoming exclusive. And I found that really an interesting area to look at. But I love what you were talking about. I want to go back to your story and ask if that approach with your current partner was different than you had tried, or like, was there more self-awareness in this round of dating? And was it intentional on your part to like pay attention and notice if you were gripping? And
yeah, it was. It's funny because I've been wanting to tell a story on the podcast, which I haven't quite told yet, about like how it related to my birth control journey. Cause I had been off the pill for a long time. And then a couple months before I met my current partner, I was like, I want a boyfriend. I know I want a boyfriend. And so I went on the pill, which is just kind of like, girl, I think you're getting like 3 steps too far ahead. And then I was going on shitty date after shitty date after shitty date. And I sat with my best friend and I was like, we need to go through the pros and cons of this because I don't know if this is, you know, something I want to continue to be on, especially because I'm not sexually active right now. What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I met my boyfriend through Instagram, through my podcast actually. Oh, nice. And we were DMing and I was like, we should hang out sometime. Not sure if it was a date, not sure if we were just hanging out as friends.
I think I saw this in your stories. It would be sick if we hung out sometime, I think is the wording.
Yes,
I thought that was so cute.
Yeah. I did say it would be sick if we could hang out sometime. And he was like, I'm down, when are you free? I'll drive. And I was like, oh, I love a man with a plan. Yes. Okay. And our text exchange about it was like on, I think, a Saturday, and we planned to hang out that next Saturday. So it was like, okay, so we have a plan for a week from now, but I was deciding I was going off the pill. So by the time Monday, like the whatever, however many days before the Saturday coming up, the Monday before, I had to like either just stop taking it or go on to my next pill pack because I was like on the like placebo week.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, Jessica, you are not starting a new pill pack when you have literally decided you're not, you know, having a boyfriend. You're just like, you're not putting that pressure on it. Cause I'm like, you know, the reason you would be continuing the pill for one more month is because of this man, which is like, that's way too much pressure.
For one guy.
For one guy that you don't know that you've talked to once on Instagram. Relax. And so I didn't go on the pill. I stopped taking the pill.
Interesting.
And I started it a week and a half later.
And you started what?
I started a week and a half later.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because it was going so well with the person.
And I was like, I want to have sex with this man. So I'm going to go.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, I love that you separated it from him and it made the pill decision about you and like, and staying true to what you were feeling and knowing that like you can change your mind anytime. Like if things do start to pick up or go well with that guy.
Yeah. And so that was my story time long example to say that I did let go. Yeah. And I was like, this is just a cool person I'm interested to getting to know better. Mm-hmm. And I'm not putting the pressure on him being my boyfriend. I don't even know him. Yeah. And that was kind of this flip the script of mindset because I'd been on dating apps before and I was always going on first dates and just wanting to meet someone and, you know, find the love of my life and all of that. And so when I let go, which is like, it is hard because it's counterintuitive that it's like.
Yeah. It almost seems like you're like giving up or not caring, but like, and you could be confused for that, but or it could go in that direction too if you let go too hard.
Yeah. So
right,
how do you recommend finding that balance? Like making it known, but then not being too aggressive?
It's a great deal of self-awareness and paying attention like you were doing with when that decision came up about the pill, paying attention to what you're doing and where like what place those actions are coming from. And that's kind of hard because we are such habitual creatures and we just like to go about things in the easiest way possible and stopping to reflect kind of like will make that feel maybe a little less smooth in some ways, but the more self-aware you are of where your actions are coming from, the better. And you can evaluate like, oh, why did I do this, and get better at doing it in the moment. As you practice. I think it is a practice though. I don't think it is. I know it's a practice and it's something that, you just kind of have to make a note or like make an intention to pay attention. And from there also be okay with like noticing when you've done something wrong. So I guess what I'm trying to say is observe neutrally. Like don't be hard on yourself when it comes to this stuff. Just observe really, really neutrally. And even getting to do that is a practice in itself, I think, especially if you're in the subconscious habit of like, beating yourself up for things,
In your own personal life, what have you struggled with the most? Where do you fall in that spectrum of what you talked about?
Okay. So I've definitely been somebody who gets out there and goes after, like, I'm active, I guess. I've always been active in the dating world since probably like the age of 19 or so. I'm in my mid 30s now. And I've had a really active dating life and it's been fun. And I've gotten into relationships, and my pattern was kind of like, I'd date whoever would go out with me, and then I'd kind of pick whoever I thought looked best on paper or who like seemed like the best fit for a boyfriend. Okay. But I was really not paying attention to like what I wanted, and I was just like, will this be accepted by like my parents and by my mom and by the parents of my mom, by my friends rather, and or by like the society, patriarchy, like all that stuff. And I really didn't understand how personal relationships really are, and how unique and custom they can be per couple or per relationship. Sometimes it's more than a couple. So right. So it's like I was just kind of going after it, thinking that I knew it was what I was doing, and my struggle was kind of just in feeling like I was doing all the things, but then failing, like still not having like a relationship that lasted longer than, usually it was about a year and a half, 2 years were the longest ones. So then I think part of my story too, I guess, was from that place of frustration and discouragement and feeling honestly really jaded. I stopped believing that I was worthy of having what I wanted. And I just perpetuated the pattern, kept going. And eventually, after it had happened enough times, I took a step back and I was evaluating, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to look at like what my responsibility is in this pattern, which I hadn't been ready to do before. And that's when, like, that honestly has been some of the hardest deep thought, emotional work that I've ever done. But it was so worth it, because not only did it benefit me in the area of my love life, but it has a ripple effect into all other areas of my life. I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it, but I'm like so proud of myself for having done that work and like confronting those things, because it took courage and it took attention and time and willingness to like really go there. And I'm such a believer in this work now because of how it's impacted my results. And I just like want to help all the women, all the women get through their challenges, because like what you want is like, if what you want is havable by you, and and the more you can get it on board, that belief, the more you start to understand you're the chooser. Like you're not going out there and just like waiting for somebody else to choose you. You actually have a huge say. Like, and I guess that's something that I didn't really appreciate for the longest time. I just thought like, I'll go out there and see who likes me.
Right.
Yeah. And out of the ones that like me, I'll choose the one that looks the best on paper.
And so how did that shift happen for you to be like, okay, I'm not going to care as much about how this person looks on paper. I'm going to, follow my intuition more, how your body responds.
Yeah. It was following my intuition more. And also I'd never set a personal goal before, like in this area of finding a relationship. So I guess I shouldn't say that. Like I had a goal to find a relationship, but the goal itself wasn't very specific. So it was just like get into a relationship and like not knowing that how different each relationship can be, right? So that didn't work out so well. When you go into it with a really specific intention, like getting really, really clear on what I wanted was the game changer for me, because then it made decision making so much easier. It's just like, does going out with this person align with the vision that I have? Yes or no? Okay, no, then I'm going to politely decline. wouldn't have been able to make that really specific goal had I not addressed some of my own like worthiness, and getting to a point like in my in my journal, there's like, if you look back at some old journals, there's like pages and pages and pages of just like me writing out, I am the prize, I am the prize, I am the prize, I am the prize. And just like knowing like whoever ends up with me is so fucking lucky.
Yeah, I love that.
Like really building that belief, and really the belief, like it's, the wording was I am the prize, but really the message there was like, I'm in demand. Like I am somebody who is wanted or wantable, desirable. And there are a lot of people out there, you know, I started to believe there are a lot of people out there that would be really, really happy and grateful to be with me and in the vision that I have, or, you know, have a similar vision that you can kind of mend together and like have your new co-vision, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. It reminded me of in 2020, I started therapy, and this is during the time that I was single, and I was probably like a year out of a pretty like negative relationship. And I was saying to her, like, I want a partner so bad, blah, blah, blah. I just keep thinking about boys, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, well, like, let's write out a non-negotiable list and see, like, what you actually, like, want in a companion, and like what you will put up with and what you won't. And it's so cool to look back on that list, and it seems so simple looking back on it, because I was like, I want someone who has passion, I want someone who has drive, who has some sort of like thing that they're working on for themselves, who values their friends, who values their own time with their friends and family.
You'd almost think these are just givens, right? But if you don't think about it,
they're not. And I'm curious if that's something that you created for yourself in the process, or if you have your own version of that.
Yes, definitely. So that's kind of like the burning desire, or the goal, I guess you'd call it. And I'll share my story. I had gotten to a place where I wasn't really sure what I wanted anymore, I wasn't sure what I wanted, and I realized that I wasn't sure what I wanted. And then to get clear on it, I started to like pay attention to different men in the world, like whether they're on YouTube or on TV or in person or whatever, and just kind of like be like, what's one thing that I really like about this interaction with this person, whether it's going to be, it was just like kind of an exercise in appreciating what there is to be appreciated in another person. Yeah. And I came across this one guy on YouTube. His name is Clark Kegley. He has a channel. Do you know him at all? No. He has a channel. He talks a lot about mindset, and that got me, because I obviously am passionate about mindset and coaching. And he talked all these different topics, and he had a video about how to attract the person, like how to attract the person that you want to be, how to attract the person you want in your life. And he basically said, write out a list of all the traits that they have, and then become that list. So
that's where I thought this was going.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And like, I gave like, because the lists like become long and like it's texty, you know, like it's a lot of information in that list. It's important because you want to be specific. So it's good to have all those details. But then when you're talking about it, or when you're thinking about it, you don't necessarily like have the capacity to go over the list every single time you think about it. So I just gave it like an anchor term, like something that I can come back to and know that term encompasses all the details of the desire or the person that I want. And that title was A Hottie with a Thoughtie.
That's amazing.
Yes. So Hottie with a Thoughtie, like I just kept that at the forefront of my mind. And I was like, I'm not going out with him unless I think that he's a hottie with a thoughtie. And if he is, then all right, we can hang out. We can get to know each other. But if not, sorry, you're just not going to be my, like, I'm just not letting you in, essentially. Yeah. And then to have, because of course you want like attracts like. So my feminine version of Hottie with a Thoughtie was big babe energy.
Love.
I was terms. Like, I was thinking that was my image of myself. I was like, I'm this big babe, and I'm going to exude this energy that is so magnetic and so attractive. And I'm just going to be able to pick from whoever I want, basically. And I'm not even joking. That's what happened. Like I feel like in the last round of dating, there were so many amazing, beautiful men that were expressing interest in me. And my problem was then I have to choose out of these guys. How am I going to choose?
And also, like, at what point was this at? Like, how serious were each of the like situations with all of them? How many were there?
Yeah, I mean, there were a few of them. But it ultimately kind of boiled down to like 3 or 4 people, and it was pretty serious. Like we had like physical and emotional intimacy, and like it was made known that we were playing the field and there was no exclusivity or commitment. And, but it was on like, we had agreed on that, but we knew that if we wanted to talk about it, that was okay. Like we could potentially talk about that. It was like not completely off the table, but it just wasn't like the focus essentially, which I honestly really liked. And it's, again, sounds super counterintuitive or like not what you'd expect, because you're like, well, then you should just be focused on one person and like taking it to the finish line with that one person. But I actually think that I got to the finish line with the one person that I'm with now because I had like other things going on that helped me not grip so tightly on this things with the one person, right?
Gotcha. That makes sense. That does make sense, because it's like there's not this scarcity mindset of like, this is the one person. Like it's funny because I feel like women sometimes are talked negatively about if you like have a roster, and it's like I remember
this term. Okay, yes, I guess that was my roster. Yeah,
that was your roster. Well, and I remember during like my single time in my life, I had a friend who's like, you need a roster. But the way I saw it at that time, and maybe this is more like a early 20s definition of a roster, is like you're sleeping with all of them. But I never saw a roster as like, oh, I could be getting emotionally intimate with all of them. Like I saw when she just said get a roster, I saw it more as this like, oh, I'm just sleeping with all of them, but it's like a fuck buddy situation. Like I don't actually have emotional intimacy, which I had not much interest in that. Yeah. But what you're talking about feels very different to me, because it's like, no, you're getting to know all of these people, and that way you can also really tell who you jive with and how you jive in different ways. Yeah. And it was a really interesting experience for me, because I hadn't had a roster before either. But the idea, I guess, well, it's interesting because people will say like fuck buddies don't have feelings for each other and whatever, but I don't really believe that. I don't believe that either. I feel like there's always some level of care for the other person. I would hope so. I would hope so too. Yeah. I would hope so too. And I think that we like to play it cool and pretend like we don't care. But I think ultimately, I think that there is at least a little bit of love, unless it's like a totally abusive, like manipulative situation. But if it's like a consensual thing where two adults are choosing to become emotional or physically intimate with each other, then I always believe that there's like some form of like love, or at least really strong like there. For at least attraction. You know, baseline, there's some attraction if you're sleeping together. Yeah, exactly. And but like you don't, like the funny thing is like people will say they're just sleeping together. It's like, who do you know that just comes together and literally just sleeps together? There's always conversation of some kind. There's always some kind of communication. A couple minutes at least. Exactly. And like before and after. And like if you spend enough time like with that person, then a meal might need to be made or had or something. So like, you need to be at least drinking some water. I would, you know, like, you need to offer them a glass. You need to know, and probably before you have any okayness sleeping with them too, you need to know a couple of things about them, like about their past. Because like, I don't know, there probably are people out there that are just like, okay, being hot is enough. But I think most people find comfort and a bit of safety in knowing at least a few details about somebody before undressing. Well, I had a situation like that when I was in my first year of university, and we had communication as well, which is so important to communicate about like what your expectations are. And he was like, if you get feelings and you find yourself wanting this to progress, please tell me, because I'm making it clear to you that like I don't want this to progress to a relationship. Yes. And then I had to check myself, and the time came where I was like, I'm gonna be completely honest, I am catching feelings. And it was like a text conversation. Yeah. And he was like so impressed. He was like, thank you so much for being honest with me. Like, I'm so glad you told me that. Great. Yeah. And what was, aside from that, what was his response? Did he not want to see you? No. We stopped sleeping together. We might have slept together one more time. Yeah. Like 2 months later. And then it was done. Yeah. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I don't even think I want to sleep with this person anymore. Okay, great. Sometimes you need to have like a last no. Yeah. No, but that's so good. And I appreciate that so much, because the people pleaser, the subtle manipulator in us wants to keep these relationships going because we're getting something out of them. Yeah. To the point that we'll kind of stop being ourselves, or like cover up who we are really. And the fact that you had caught feelings was really honest, or it was good that you were honest with yourself so you could be honest with him. Yeah. And I like that you were like okay with it just
that being the end of it there. Like knowing that I'm going to tell him this and it could mean the end, and I'm going to tell him anyways.
Yeah. I still wanted to run into him on the elevator because he lived in the same building as me, but like, but I do think back to it, and I'm like, because sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit, and sometimes you think like I was definitely not in the most like healthy relationship state of mind, but at the end of the day, like if he was so upfront about what he was looking for, and it was so, I appreciated it so much, because it just made me be like, wow, okay, I'm not gonna like sit back, because if he hadn't been honest and laid it on the table like that, I would have been like, okay, so like maybe there's a chance here. Maybe he likes me, but he was like, I got out of a relationship, I'm not looking to get into another one, and I was like, cool.
Respect.
Respect.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of guys want to be that honest and aren't, because they're afraid of it ruining the chances of the hookup or the benefits part of the friendship happening.
Yeah. Well, and we had slept together a few times by the time that happened. Sorry, Mom. I know my mom is always like, when I give these details, she's always like, you always say sorry, Mom. Like, we're being real around here. This is a human.
Yeah, that's it.
But like, what was I gonna say? Something about just the fact that like you can be completely upfront and honest, and that's being so respectful of each other's feelings. And and then also, if you say that right off the bat, he put the ball in my court. So and then there was moments where we did start to get to know each other, and I was starting to think about him more, and I was like, I want to date this person.
That's natural.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's funny. I'm having deja vu to a friend I had on the podcast, and we were talking about online dating and dating apps and stuff. And she's like, your body doesn't know what a situationship is. Like your body just, feels that attraction. It feels the feelings it's going to feel. So as much as you want to intellectualize an experience, like we like love getting to know people, and we love getting close to people, and we want to have those connections, and that's totally okay. And that communication is possible, and like
absolutely there's a lot of I think fixed ideas of how like relationships are supposed to be from beginning till end. And I think when I started to kind of do things my own way, but of course like talking, open communication with the other people, so they have the ball in their court too. Like everybody has an understanding of what's happening. Everyone has like their own ability to consent to it. And I think as soon as I started to kind of like write my own rules a little bit, that's when I started to really, really enjoy the process of dating, to the point that I almost didn't want it to end. I was starting to have a lot of fun with it. And like fun with other people, but also fun in just like, there's so much to discover about yourself in this context specifically. And I think that when I started coaching, I learned that the real purpose of the goal is to grow. And that's why I think it's so important now, based off my experience, to not settle for a relationship that's not really, really, really what you want, because you're going to decline. Actually, you're going to get into something, and it's literally not going to stand a chance from day one, but you're going to try to make it work and give it your all, and maybe even try to force it at times. Like I know I did that. But if you have the goal like of the person who's like in a league outside of what you think you're in, essentially, that's like the best thing you can do for yourself, because you're going to want to become the person that attracts that, right? And there's going to be some changes and some growth that you're going to have to go through in order to attract somebody who's currently out of your league. And then I think that's like, how amazing is that? You set this goal, and you just end up developing so much personally that it almost doesn't even matter if you hit the goal anymore.
It's so true, because I've said this to friends, especially when I was going on a ton of first dates, and only first dates that sometimes didn't even progress to second dates. I was like, you learn so much about yourself. It's kind of like when you go to networking events and you have to just like tell a brand new person all about who you are. It makes me sit back and be like, damn, I'm pretty freaking cool.
And exactly.
Like, you learn new things by having new conversations.
Totally. And like you learn new things about yourself, and through hearing yourself speak in that context, you can uncover some of your beliefs, and it can be even kind of funny, like in the moment, to be like on a date with somebody talking about something that you're experiencing, and you're like, oh, actually, I don't believe that. I just thought I believed that because I heard it so many times, but I actually don't find this or that important, and I find this important instead, or and it's like really can be really interesting, and to bring them into that self-discovery too, and to almost like thank them for giving you the opportunity to get to that idea.
Yeah. I have guy friends who have never gone on dates and never been in relationships. And I'm like, guys, she doesn't have to be the one. She doesn't have to be the love of your life. But I'm like, this is just amazing practice to get to know who you are and try and get to know someone else. And I'm like, I totally like went off on a close friend of mine who now has a girlfriend.
Oh, fantastic.
And I literally said to him,
influenced that.
He totally did.
Good.
As much as you hear from your guy friends, you need to go for it. He's like, I think he needed to hear it from a woman. And I was like, dude, you're so into this girl and you've known her for a long time, just like kind of like acquaintance. And he's probably listening, you know, I'm talking about you. And I was like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is embarrassing, dude. Like, you gotta just like ask her on a date. I'm like, we're 22 years old. Yes. Like, we are adults. It is time to just go for it. And now they're dating.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I love that. That's you probably said something that it was tough for him to hear a little bit.
He said it hurt the ego.
Yeah. It hurt the ego a little bit, but
you got
it was worth it.
It was worth it, and you got to do it. And that doesn't mean that, like, you know, in other circumstances, maybe you'll ask someone on a date and you'll be shut down or whatever. But it's like, it's just practice of putting yourself out there and gaining more confidence.
Totally.
And I actually want your opinion on like types. When you think you have a type.
Oh, like a physical type,
like
or
a physical type or an emotional type. Like I also wanted to say, like, I don't regret any of my past relationships at all. Even the ones that I see as probably they got toxic or negative or whatever. They were such experiences to help me learn who I am. And I had a more specific type leading up to my current partner. And my current partner is like personality wise, there's definitely like similarities in terms of like artistic creativity stuff. Yeah. But like, physical types completely different.
Yeah. With physical types, what I've done in the past was I just like chose, like, I wanted a face for the hottie with the thottie. And this guy, Clark Kegley, who inspired it, is pretty handsome, but he's not, he wouldn't necessarily be my type that I gravitate towards. So I kind of replace his face with somebody else who I find really cute, and that's I don't even know how to say his last name, but it's Milo Ventimiglia.
Yes. Oh, from This Is Us.
From This Is Us. I fell in love with him. Gilmore Girls. Yes, Jess from Gilmore Girls was a big crush of mine. I just slapped that face on the description basically, and I used that as like a loose like idea of the physical. Like I know what I like physically. I know what I'm most attracted to, but I know that physical is less of a priority for me than emotional or intellectual. So I just put it on there like really loosely. I'm like, and if he looked like this, that would be great. Yeah. And sure enough, like my current partner looks like a lot like Milo. So.
Oh my God. There's a TikTok trend that's like my like childhood like crush, like celebrity crush. So like mine would be like Zac Efron. And then they put like their current partner, and some people's look so similar. It's insane. Mine totally doesn't. I'm dating an Indian man. So and I was into a white man. So difference of look.
He's the Indian Zac.
Yeah, exactly. He is. I love that. But oh my gosh, so good. Okay, love that.
So when like going away from your typical type, what was that like for you? Did you have any drama around that, or was it just like, whatever, I guess I don't care about my type, I like this guy, and that's that? Okay, so one of the things that was so amazing about changing my type is that it changed from, I like to call them shrimp arms, to really nice muscular arms. And arms. We're not gonna like hate on any of the men. We love you all. And I've dated many men who were like I had a thing with a guy as well in first year during my single time, and I like flexed, and he was like, I think your bicep is bigger than mine. And I was like, oh shit. Alrighty, Rue. Moving on. And so my current boyfriend is like, he beautifully muscular. Like I love it so much. That was like best case scenario. He's a great height, whatever. I'm pretty short though as well. But the thing that was very different is obviously the race piece. Like I'm in an interracial relationship now, which I have never experienced before. And I also like went to arts high school and middle schools, and they were all white. Like they're very predominantly white. And we're in Etobicoke's pretty white. Well, it depends on the neighborhood you live in. But so there were so many cultural differences that we needed to confront and talk about. We will forever be talking about them as long as we're in this relationship. And even outside of it, if we were to ever break up, like this is something that it's always going to be on my mind. And so I remember it took about 6 months in for there to start being conversations about it, because like we weren't very comfortable with each other yet. And it's like, you know, there are heavy conversations. Like the first couple dates that we had though, I totally noticed people looking at us very differently than they would have when I was dating a white guy. Do you think do you think that you were like paying attention for, like, were you looking for that? Do you think, like, were you self-conscious and therefore you were getting this confirmation bias from your surroundings, or like,
interesting. The first couple dates, I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. Cause the first date and the second date, I didn't notice anything. And then the third date, I was like, we were in line for like a Dairy Queen outside. And that's when I noticed it. And it kind of caught me off guard.
Right.
Because when we first started dating, I didn't even think about it. Even like when we put our arms next to each other, then I'd be like, oh wow, okay, that's very different.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it, and I didn't expect the kind of like shift in how I would see society and our culture and how it treats people differently. Because there's one thing to like intellectually know racism exists, but there's a completely different experience you go through when the person you're so close to is affected by it, and then you are as a second party or whatever.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So dealing with like family expectations and what that would be like. He's the first person to come into my family who isn't white. I'm the first person to be in his family who's not brown. And it's interesting, and it requires vulnerability and hard conversations.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, and I commend you for doing that, all for the sake of love. But that's amazing. What has been one thing that you've learned through this experience of your interracial relationship that you think that really stands out for you?
Well, it's funny because this is another episode I've been wanting to record solo, is like, don't write people off right away because they have a difference of opinion than you, just like on the surface. Like if you on the surface like believe different things about vaccinations or abortions or gay rights or any of those things, like I have been so exposed to a community of people who are so different than what I grew up in. I went to art schools, progressive as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
But like being exposed to communities and people who I now consider like family to me and are family to him, they have very different opinions than I do. And I have been able to have such open, honest conversations where like, sometimes I get annoyed, sometimes I get pissed, sometimes I get offended, sometimes they get offended.
And that's amazing.
But being able to like continue, and we have that because my boyfriend and I have that foundation of like we love our car rides, because on our car rides we always get into something controversial and we really get into it. But I would say just like him and I have very similar core values, and that's very important. We have very similar core values of always respecting people even if they don't have the same view as us. And that's what I would say to people, is that like, don't write someone off right away. Just obviously also they don't have to be your significant other. Like if someone has a very different belief than you, doesn't mean you even need to be friends with them. But being open to learning and changing your perspective even a teensy bit is so big.
I love that it's kind of like this opportunity for you to see things in ways that you wouldn't typically look at them if you didn't have him in your life and you didn't have that family or exposure to that family, or his family as well. So that's so cool. I love hearing that. And I think like it's like what we were talking about a moment ago, how there's so much self-discovery to come from this area of life, and it doesn't stop after you've gotten into the relationship. Like it's like it only just gets started, right? Yes. And that's why I think it's so important to shoot for somebody that you might think is a little out of your league, because it's way more motivating to like keep bettering yourself to be in the relationship. If you're really into the person and the relationship that you've created, then when you're called to grow, you're a lot more likely to answer that call.
Yes. And you both are actively working on yourselves, which I think is so important. And him and I had a conversation literally a couple days ago, because there's a lot of wedding talk going on. His sister's getting married.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So there's a lot of like, well, Josh, when you get married, and it's like, he's like, oh my God. And so we've had conversations similar to what we were just saying about how the dating phase is so fun when you're like dating around and like you're single and you're meeting different people,
going out to different restaurants or trying different activities you haven't tried before. Like there's a lot of good stuff there,
and there's so much good stuff. There's so many stories you get to tell your friends and all this stuff. True, and like him and I are like, I'm like, it is terrifying to think, if you are my person that I actually want to grow with for the rest of my life, I'm so young, that's so scary to think this is it. But we're like, we don't have to look at it that way. Like, I always need to feel like I'm my own individual person, and you always need to feel like you're your own person. And if we're calling each other too much, we call each other out and we figure it out. If we're seeing each other too much or too little, or vice versa, you need to have that constant reevaluation and communication.
For sure. And understanding like where when you might be like sacrificing your independence or self-abandoning a little bit and putting the power on the other person to satisfy or meet a certain need that you have that really it's your responsibility to meet. Yes. I love that idea of two wholes coming together and not like people completing each other. Like that's like such nonsense that I feel we kind of grow up to believe, or like some movies will teach us that, but it's what I've definitely found is what you're talking about is being your own independent person, meeting someone else who's their own person, and then integrating your lives in a way that fits you guys, your style, like specifically those two people.
Yes. Yeah. I want to talk about like more cultural expectations around dating and stuff. And we talked about how like you feel like you're supposed to keep it hidden that you've had past relationships, or like that you've slept with different people, and there's this like obsession about like the amount of people you've had sex with, and like how have you navigated that through dating and different relationships?
Well, I think in phases of my life where I didn't have very, high awareness of what was going on, I think a lot of shame. Like I grew up Catholic, and I just realized this the other day, like the relationship that I have to model is my parents, and they're still together. They've been together for I think over 40 years now. Oh, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I think they're a great example. Even with their imperfections, every couple's going to have imperfections. And I actually don't know any of their dating stories or history. Like I think I've heard about when they were dating each other. Okay. But before that, I have zero knowledge or awareness of that at all. So
how old were they when they met?
I think they were like 20 or like early 20s. They met in university. Okay. So yeah, late teens, early 20s kind of thing. And it's so funny to me that like, because that was the example that I saw growing up, I thought that like that's what relationships were supposed to be like on day one.
Yes. Oh my God, my brother and I struggled with the exact same thing. My parents met when they were 16 and 17.
Oh my gosh, they've basically not known life without each other for the most part.
Right? It's insane. Yeah. My dad had like some dating experiences before my mom, and my mom as well. But my brother and I realized when we got into our first ever relationships, we were both about late teens, like high school, leaving high school kind of area. And we both felt like our first relationship had to be like it. Yeah. Because that's what we saw.
Yeah. Same here. There was so much pressure on my first boyfriend ever. We were like just graduating high school and getting into college and stuff. And like put so much pressure on that poor guy to show up like a full-blown husband. But you know what? I think he was in the same boat. He had the same example. I don't know what he knew about his parents' dating history prior to their marriage or whatever, but he was in the same boat and he treated it the same way, honestly. So I think that's kind of why it worked for the time that it did, is because we both approached it in that same way, but we also were exposed to so much more like shortly after getting together, because that's when we went off to school and like started learning about what goes on in the world outside of our homes and outside of our like school community and culture, or like school community and like extracurriculars. And then you start seeing that the world, there's so many different ways to experience life in this world, like and then you kind of have to be, I had to be honest with myself at that point anyways, that I was like, as much as I love this person and how much it's been great having this first experience, I actually need to go and explore. I like had this urge, I couldn't quiet it. Like I had to go explore and find out more of what was out there. And that was so conflicting at the time, of course, because like, I'm like, am I not grateful for this amazing person in my life? Like what's wrong with me? But yeah, it just came down to like, something like a intuitive thing where I was like, I need to go explore a little bit more and see what else is out there. And that's what I did.
I love it. What's something that you struggled with the most when you were in that phase of life, when you had just gotten out of your first ever relationship and were starting to see what the world of dating and
I think honestly the biggest struggle I had was like, did I make a big mistake? Like, did I ruin or did I exit that relationship? And like, was that it? Like, did I fuck up in like a really big way? I think that was probably like doubting that decision was probably one of the biggest struggles. But I think ultimately it was more just like, it was just not knowing what I wanted. Like it was going out with a blindfold on. It'd be like, do you like me? Do you like me? You feel like you're gonna be like somebody that I'd like. I don't know. It was just so, just the way that I operate now versus how I did then. I'm just like, how did I get anywhere? Like, I was so not like intentional or anything. So it was just like, and believing that, like I didn't have much say in, well, not much say, but like, or there was no point of like choosing something specific because I probably couldn't have it. Like, it felt like a pointless thing to do. And otherwise I would have been really intentional a lot earlier, but because it's not like it's a big secret or anything that you can go and approach this like intentionally.
Yeah. But I think that like I struggled with this so much of like, is there a person that's right for me even out there? Is there like you see in movies these like rom-coms, this like dream, man or woman or whoever that comes and like sweeps you off your feet and like they're the person meant for you. I was like, is there actually a person meant for me? Like, or is there someone I'm going to love that much? And I really doubted it.
Like love someone that much to the point of like,
I want to spend my life with them. Okay. Or like we jived that well.
Okay.
Like it's like Josh and I will say like, it's so weird because we have very like similar like core values of, what we want with our future and our life. And we're big dream chasers and whatever. But then there's like weird little details that didn't need to be there. And we didn't need to have in common. Like, how some people like hate feet and they won't ever touch feet. Yeah. We're like wanting to give each other foot massages. Okay. And we're like, this could not have gone this way. Like we could have like, one of us could have hated feet and the other one could have like loved that. Like, and not in a weird way, but you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's like, I never expected there actually to be that much synchronicity in meeting someone. Yeah.
Okay. And when you did find that, were you like, okay, now I believe that there is a person or that there is someone? Did your belief change?
Yeah, but it takes a while, I feel like, because at first you're just getting to know someone. It takes a long time to like really get. Okay, I also have this theory and I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a thing of my kind of pocket of generation, maybe 20 to 25 of like, I feel like people meet someone and they either casually date for up to 6 months maximum, like 4 to 6 months, and then it's over and that's the only place it goes. Or once they consider it a relationship, they date for at least a year, if not like 2.
Wait, say that again?
So my hypothesis is that people won't like call each other boyfriend, girlfriend and break up after like 8 months. They almost once like, your boyfriend, girlfriend, they need to do at least a year. That's what I've been finding. Everyone I know in my circles, it's like a lease. Yes, it's like people sign once you're like, we are boyfriend, girlfriend. It's like maybe there's a psychological thing of like, even if you're doubting it at 6 months or doubting it at 8 months, it's like you keep going.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, that's that kind of like, I wouldn't doubt that theory. Like, I'm trying to think though. I feel like I've definitely been in relationships with people like we put the label on it and it didn't even last a year. So I don't know. I maybe debunk your theory a little bit.
Yeah, no, I want it to be debunked.
Yeah, but I mean, I can appreciate it too from a sense of like, if you're gonna go through the trouble of if you're gonna go through those steps of putting a label on it and then starting to integrate your lives, I think like there's a part of us that gets prideful. We don't want to be the failure. Like we want it, like we almost want the relationship to work out, not because we care about the relationship, but we care about our pride and our image and how we appear as successful or not in relationships with others.
Yeah, I agree. How do you cope with, I don't know if you've gone through this, I went through this definitely a lot being single, when especially my grandmas would always be like, so like, what's going on? Like, why don't you have a boyfriend? How do you cope with like people always like, getting on you when you're not dating someone?
Yeah. I think I just find it sort of funny, honestly. I just laugh it off because they're just coming from their own paradigms, right? Like, and an older generation, like, remember when it was common for people to get married before they turned 20? Like, that's not that long ago. Yeah. That generation's still here. So to them, like me being 35 and not married probably is just like, what's wrong? You're a great person. Like, you should be married. Like, I think it's coming from that place of like, you should, like, I think that you're wife material or whatever. And to them, that's a huge compliment, but they don't maybe realize that, like, I don't care. I don't care about the same things. So.
Yeah. And you have to remember that like your vision of your life is going to be different than those people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's fascinating because it's you get to like see into their minds that way, right? So I think just having a sense of humor about it and not taking anything personally, like like that's how I think coping or navigating that like becomes something that you don't feel like you have to run from or like avoid type thing. Like I know an easy way to solve problems like that is just like, I just won't go around those people, but it's like, no, you can actually enjoy them and be around them, but just interpret or be selective, just be and discerning about how much you're going to take in of what they're saying. And, you know, I mean, in situations like that, like with family and unless you're with your best friends, like you have to expect that you're going to be like exposed to different types of thoughts, different types of paradigms, different types of like opinions and views, and they have their idea of what they think is best for somebody or best and right, and that's fine. Like that's great. Yeah,
I love that you said have a sense of humor about it, because I would even say to my grandmas, I would be like, I know, I think I'm great too, I don't know why no one's scooped me up yet. Like I'm working on it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like a really nice lighthearted way to like respond and then just kind of move on from there if you don't want to have any more of the conversation. I think another good tip is just having like a go-to subject changer, I guess, like something that you like to talk about, or and I find like just turning around and like asking them a question that's off the topic, like on a different topic is a great way to do that usually.
I do that when people are like, so what are you doing with your life? Because I just graduated university. That's like the go-to question right now.
Yes, of course.
And it doesn't end. And that's what I think it's important to remember is that like, it's like, okay, why aren't you dating someone? What are you doing with your life? Or when are you getting married? Or are you engaged? Or are you having kids? Like it can go on and on. So you just need to like, you know, sway the conversation elsewhere. Okay, I'm gonna do a speed round where I ask you a bunch of just
lightning round.
Let's go. Okay. I didn't even write them down. We're just gonna give her. All right. Okay, favorite dating app?
Hinge.
Oh, okay. Best conversation starter?
Well, I mean, I have one specific example from my partner. He messaged me about the work that I do, and I just thought it was a really good and personal like approach versus just like, hey, how's it going or whatever. It was like, I love your business, I love what you're doing. That's awesome. And that was like, oh, I have a really good feeling about this guy. Ooh. Like right from the first message.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. What's the best first date in your opinion? Like activity?
I love playing catch. I love going to the park and playing catch.
Oh, that's cute.
Like, it's a personal thing. I love playing softball. So like a park environment's really nice. It's open, it's safe, there are other people around. Nice. And like being outdoors is always really nice. I like outdoors, or I love the outdoors, so I want to be with somebody else who can appreciate the outdoors as well, and an outdoor activity like playing catch and like a couple subtle beers on the side.
Nice. Like, okay, I was gonna ask drink or not drink on a first date.
I've been one to have a couple drinks on a first date for sure. I don't see anything wrong with having a couple or not. Like it's totally up to you. I think it's fun to think of ideas of dates that don't involve alcohol, because most of us by default go towards alcohol. So I like the challenge of not having it there, but I've also mostly just kind of gravitated to having like a couple of drinks here and there.
Nice.
And sometimes it turns into a few more that too, depending on how the night's going.
Oh, best way to end a date?
To not end it, like just keep it going to the next day.
That was my next question. Yeah. How soon do you recommend sleeping with someone that you're newly dating?
I think there's no right answer or wrong answer to this. Person. For sure, depending on the person, depending on the environment, depending on the situation, and depending how you're feeling. I think it can be the first night, it could be the second night, it could be like 6 months down the road. Yeah. Like I think it just really depends.
I love it.
And it comes down to listening and trusting your own intuition.
Yes. Debunking the fact that you're not going to keep someone if you sleep on the first date. Fuck that shit.
Oh my gosh, if you give away the milk, no one's going to buy the cow. Like
what are we?
Yeah, right?
I guess we if we have a child, we do breast milk, and can be seen as cows. But seriously, what the hell?
Seriously.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what would be the number one like tangible piece of advice you would give to someone who's like, I'm getting impatient, I want my dream partner?
Oh, the advice for them. We would talk about the gripping and the touching lightly, and having and go towards faith, and yeah, so it would just be a conversation of like calming your nervous system and really like using your reasoning factor to like understand it's like really okay to be wherever you are at right now, and just having that self-love and compassion, and And yeah, I would probably bring up gratitude for the way things currently are too. I think one of the things that helped me so much in getting into that big babe energy I was talking about was just having so much gratitude for the way that things currently are, but still allowing myself to want more.
That's amazing.
And just having faith and full belief that what I'm looking for is also looking for me, and it's coming.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show,
Oh my
Shannon.
gosh. I could talk for hours and hours and hours. This has been so fun.
So fun. Please link your social medias, your website, how people can find you and work with you as well.
Okay, great. Do I do that right now?
Yes.
Like verbally? Okay.
Yes. Good question.
So I'll verbally link my Instagram here. It's at Shannon _ the dating coach.
Perfect.
And that's the main place you can follow me right now. I'm doing one-on-one coaching. I'm also running some workshops that you can keep an eye open for. I always talk about those on my Instagram account, and I'm starting a group dating coaching program. So I want to help an intimate group of women find love this summer. So by the end of the summer.
I like that. I love that.
Get serious about it.
Set those intentions. Yeah.
Set the intentions, get serious about it, and watch it happen. And I'm really excited for my first group.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming on. I feel like this was like a girl chit chat.
It really was.
We just got to like share stories and talk about life, but take away a lot about dating.
It was awesome. And there was one thing that I noticed during the conversation that I was like, we both need to stop doing this. What? And I don't know if you started doing it because I was doing it or what, but we both were referring to our partners as our current partners, as though like maybe there's a next one. But I caught myself doing that during, and I was like, fuck, I really like, I'm
Good
not, it's like, I'm just going to refer to him as my partner. Like, that's it. Partner, period. Done.
Oh my God. Shit.
I know.
I love that you're calling us out.
I know. I refer to my exes as my previous partners, but I don't need to refer to my partner as my current partner.
You're like, duh, he's my current partner. I'm talking about my partner, period.
And my intention is that he's my life partner. So it's like, of course, I need to catch those types of things. So that's
me too.
That's what I was talking about, the self-awareness from a neutral place. We can have a laugh about it, have a good, like, have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
But catch those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, if you have the intention of like, you just want to like casually date people, sure, call them your current partner.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat where I'm like, I do want this person to be my life partner.
Yes, exactly.
So let's not say he's my current partner, because then I'm just expecting, all right, you're out in 2024. On to the next.
Exactly. Yeah. And we can have a whole conversation about our next partners before they're even here.
Literally. Oh my God. It was so fun to just like have a good laugh.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Follow at humantohumanpod on Instagram and TikTok. And subscribe and tune in, because every Monday I post episodes.